Did you know that most drone crashes on a first flight could be prevented in literally 5 minutes? And I'm not just talking about better prep, I mean actually having a real plan for the entire flight. You see, beginners don't usually crash because they're just bad pilots. They crash because no one gives them a simple step-by-step roadmap that actually fits their skill level. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what to do before you take off, during your flight, and after you land. So that way, your very first FPV experience is smoother, safer, and just way more fun than you ever thought possible. To kick things off, we're going to head out to a nice wide open field or a paddock, but first, you need to make sure that these 3 conditions are met. Firstly, there's no one else nearby. Secondly, there's no wind, or at the very least, very little wind. And thirdly, the grass is short enough that you can easily land your drone or go and find it if you happen to crash. But we're hoping not for that. So with all that sorted, let's cut to the chase and let's get this party started. Now, because this is your first ever FPV drone flight, I want you to keep in mind that you're going to be nervous. Potentially, maybe not, maybe you're not nervous, but if you're anything like I have been in the past, it's dead nervous and it does result in things happening to your controller that you're just not used to happening in the sim. So I want you to keep all of that in mind and just try and follow these instructions, these steps, as well as you possibly can today. And look, if things don't quite go to plan as you'd hoped, don't stress about it. Things are gonna be okay. I just wanted to put that out there. With that all being said, let's get right on into step number 1. This first step is almost a little bit of a repeat of what we've done in the past, but I can't actually stress just how important this is. I don't know what you've done with your drone between home and here, but something might have happened. And so I'm gonna get you to grab your drone out, forget about everything else, and we're going to do a prop check. Now in the previous video, I set everything to be props out. That means that the propellers need to be going from the middle of the body in an outward direction, from the middle of this bit of the body in an outward direction. So therefore, my props should be spinning in this direction, right? So we're spinning out and we're spinning out. Of course, if your props are spinning in, that's gonna be going the opposite direction, but for the sake of this, I'm doing props out only. Now what you need to do is you need to check each prop. You need to make sure, okay, the prop direction is indeed correct. All of these props have got their pitch at the correct pitch, all facing out in all directions, and they're all looking good. Then, your next check is to double check that these props are actually on really solidly. You need to hold your motor and then just give them a good wiggle. Now, if any of them feel even partially loose, you really need to tighten them up. If they all feel solid and you're certain that they're good, then we can move on to stage 2. Our next stage is, of course, pulling out the rest of our equipment. So for that, I've got batteries, and in my case, I brought along 5 6S LiPos for the drone. Then we've got the remote controller, and finally, our goggles. Now, a very important note with the goggles, and something that could actually affect you permanently for the rest of your FPV hobby, well, if you don't want to spend more money that is facing these goggles the wrong way. Now, what I'm talking about here is this big bright thing that's shining into my eyes, the reason I'm wearing these sunglasses. That's right, I'm talking about the sun here. If you happen to leave your goggles with the screen, this side where the lenses are, facing towards the sun, what can happen is the sun can come in through those lenses, focus the light, and actually burn into your screen, which is a permanent problem and you can't get rid of it unless you go and buy new FPV goggles. So the important thing to always do here is wherever the sun is, you're facing your goggles towards it like that. That way, you're not gonna be getting any screen burn and you're not gonna damage your goggles in the long run. And then, second up on that, we can take our remote controller out, and a little note on this. Trying to get sand, dirt, or crap inside of the gimbals, that's really gonna screw you over in the long run, but for now, I'm gonna turn this bad boy on and place it to the side. Now, as you turn your remote controller on, ideally, in the perfect world, it will not come up with any warnings and it's just gonna start up and show you the normal startup screen. If, however, when you're turning it on, it comes up saying switch warning, what you need to do is you need to flick all of your switches back into their original positions, which means that nothing is gonna be armed if you happen to plug your drone in and suddenly as you're plugging it in, the motors spin up, the props cut you, and it's game over. But we've also got a pre-arm, so that shouldn't happen to you either. Regardless, stage 3 is make sure that all your switches are in their proper positions to be starting off and nothing is gonna arm up or beep when we plug the drone in. Speaking of batteries, that brings us on to a very exciting stage, and that's actually plugging this battery in. Now, I'm gonna recommend that you do this on the ground, but to be able to show you what I wanna show you, I'm gonna show you right here in front of you. So do this bit on the ground, don't do exactly what I'm doing here, but follow these steps. So first of all, you're gonna make sure that your battery is fully strapped down. Now, as you can see on this side here, this little strap here isn't hanging out like this. And now if the strap was, it gives the prop something to hit, and we don't want that. So make sure that your straps are fully put down and that they're not going to be affecting your propellers at all. Then the second thing to do is this little balance lead. This is what you charge with, right? This needs to actually be tucked in. Otherwise, what can happen is, same as the strap lead, it can go down into your propellers, and then your propellers will chop it. Now, you can probably imagine what happens if your propellers chop a balance lead. It's not happy days, and you really don't want that happening. So ensure that what you do is in between your battery leads, your two main ones, you just tuck this little balance cable up into the middle, just like that, and it sits in there, just in between that. You don't need to close anything up, you don't need to do anything different. That is now out of the way, and you can get little balance lead protectors and whatnot, but honestly, this is what I've done for the last 4 years. It's worked perfectly fine. Then, of course, the final stage here is to plug your drone in. Now I am going to do that, but on the ground, because I just don't like having my hands and a drone around my face when I'm plugging it in. It's not good practice. So do all of that on the ground, but then also we're going to go and do this actually on the ground now. So we'll do that. Now this isn't really rocket science, but what we're doing is we're taking our nice XT60 plug and we're plugging it right on in here, making sure that our little balance lead is still tucked in there. You can go ahead and plug it on in. Now, once you've plugged your drone in, it's a good idea to move a safe distance away. This is definitely depending on your drone. For example, if you have something like a small tiny whoop, well, you probably don't need as much distance, but this is a full-fledged 5-inch drone, so I'm keeping my distance here. But now for this first stage, I want you to just arm and then disarm the drone. To do that, you're going to need to press your pre-arm switch and your arm switch, so we'll do that. That's good news. I can see the drone is spinning up. Perfect, nothing weird's happening. If you do have your props on backwards, this is probably where it's going to freak out, so that's a good thing to note here. Then, same step, I want you to just disarm. My drone has been armed and disarmed. I know that that works. I know how to do it. Then, whilst we're still here without our goggles on, I now want you to rearm the drone, and then I want you to just put it into a very light hover with the camera facing the complete opposite way from you. So right now, my drone is facing that direction, meaning any movements that I make, any micro movements, I have got the best chance of having line of sight as good as possible. Now, if you're completely unconfident with line of sight, I do recommend that you do some sim practice and try a little bit of line of sight. It's pretty important just to try out at first. So to do this, I'm just going to go into a short little hover, keeping it very easy, and keeping in mind that my drone is going to drift around. Now, after I've done that and I've confirmed that it can fly, I'm going to drop it back down nice and slowly, and then with the drone disarmed, I'm going to put my remote controller back down so that I cannot arm it no matter what. Go back over to my drone, and then I'm actually going to unplug the drone now. Now, I haven't just stopped you on this stage to say, hey, let's put the goggles on and get out flying, although we will get there very soon. Instead, I want to stop you at this stage and just make sure that you've got a bit of a game plan for if anything goes wrong or if you feel out of control at any point. To do this, I've got one very simple trick to try, and it is simply the second that you feel like your drone's out of control, you don't know which direction you're traveling, try not to freak the f out. I can't say that. Instead, what I want you to do is use your left stick, that's your yaw left to right, and I want you to try and find the direction and face your drone in the direction that the drone is traveling. That's all I want you to do to start off. Just that yaw, go in the direction that you're traveling so that you are now facing that direction. Then what I want you to do is swap fingers, go over to your right stick, and I want you to pull your pitch back so that you're now level and that your drone isn't going to be speeding into the ground or speeding off somewhere. So you're going to level it back, slow it down, and voila, you've just got yourself back in control into a nice forwards flying motion so you actually know where you're going, how to control the drone again, and you're not going to feel super lost. So that's in case of emergency. So that then brings us on to stage 8, and as you'll probably see, I have got a lovely pair of goggles attached to my head. Well, they're not attached, but they're on my head. I want you to do the exact same thing right now. I want you to grab your goggles, put them on your head, turn them on, make sure that they're on and running and working well. I want you to have your drone, and I also want you to have your remote controller far away. Remote controller, make sure all of the switches are off again because we're going to be handling the drone and plugging it in. So the switches all need to be off, obviously the remote controller on. Now, bring the drone back over here. I'm going to try not to get it tangled with my wires. Pop it down, we'll plug it on in. That's all good, that's starting up. Now, as I'm wandering back over, I can double check and make sure that I've got video feed, and I have, and we're gonna run through the DVR just now to make sure that everything is gonna run super smoothly. It's at this stage that I'm gonna recommend you actually take a seat and you sit down because you can get a lot of vertigo, and honestly, on my first flight, I'm pretty sure I was sitting down and still nearly fell out of my damn chair. So, have a seat, make sure you're gonna be relaxed and chill. I think I'm sitting on wet ground. I am. My ass is now wet. Rightio, I've brought myself a seat over because I don't feel like having a wet butt. So now that we've had a seat, let's have a little look into our DVR. If we pop our goggles on, you're going to see that there is a disarmed in the middle. There is a 4.25 volt, which is your average cell voltage, in the bottom left-hand corner. In the bottom right, you've got our link quality, which is currently pretty damn good. Then at the top right, we've got our core temperature, which is the core temperature of the quad itself. In the middle, you'll see if I hold down my pre-arm and my arm and I arm the drone, you'll now see that the disarmed state has disappeared. And that's a good thing. It means that the drone's on, the drone's armed, and that the props are all spinning, and we can actually visibly see that in our case. Now, I'm going to disarm the drone here for a second, and you're going to see a bunch of stats show up. These we didn't set in the previous step, and that's totally okay. These aren't actually necessary for this first flight. All I want you to be focusing on when you're armed up and ready to roll is that bottom left number, that 4.25 volt. Oh, right now it's 4.23. What I want you to ensure is that that number never goes below 3. 3 is by far the furthest you should ever go on a LiPo battery, and when I mean the furthest, I mean if you go to 3, you're damaging your battery. So you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be having that battery getting damaged. So honestly, the best practice is to land your drone at 3.5 volts, and that's 3.5 volts at a hover. So you'll see we're sitting at 4.23, right? If I pop my drone up into a bit of a hover here, you can now see we've dropped down to 4.14. So what I'm saying is that when this drone reaches 3, or this battery reaches 3.5 volts per cell, I want you to be landing it, okay? Now, don't take off just yet. That was a visual demonstration. Now, that does lead us on into our first ever FPV drone flight. And look, I'm gonna be completely honest with you here. This was one of the best, most fun experiences that I'd ever had just starting any hobby. It is unlike anything you've ever tried before. It's even stupidly different from VR because you're in control with a drone, and in VR, it's just not quite the same. This is real life. You're literally flying a drone and only seeing what the drone sees. It's one of the coolest things. So all that to say, I don't want you to freak out and think, oh God, like I've got to really master this. This is your first flight, it's your first stage. I just want you to enjoy it and embrace it and just feel the feeling of flying FPV. There is no pressure. If you crash, you crash. Just disarm the drone, call it a day, happy days. It's fine. That likely just means you probably need a bit more sim time before we're out here flying. But if you're just getting it right and you're just sort of flying yourself around, it's one of the most liberating feelings ever. I remember how good it felt, and it's just super exciting to actually get into the sky and finally fly around. So with that being said, this first flight, all I want you to do is just fly in a forwards motion and do very, very slow micro corrections, small movements with both sticks doing coordinated turns. Coordinated turns are where you use both your yaw and your roll, and you just do coordination with both sticks at the same time. That's going to lean you and turn you around, and lean you and turn you around. I'll show you that in just a moment, but yeah, keep that in mind, take it chill, and enjoy this moment. This is your freaking moment. Embrace it. I sound like some crazy speech guy, I'm sorry. But let's arm up and take it into a nice, slow, chill hover. And now we're flying. Look at you go. This is going to be you. You're going to be flying, and I want you to just now take very slow, coordinated movements. So right now, my left stick and my right stick are working together, okay? And again, the opposite way, my left stick and my right stick are working together. What I don't want you to be doing is going like this and then doing this, okay? That is so far from what I want you to be doing, it's not even funny. Simplistically, take it super freaking slow and just do really slow movements. Get into this vibe of just, holy crap, I'm flying a freaking drone. Now, the one thing to really keep in mind whilst this is all happening, and it's all gonna get exciting and you might get caught up in the moment, but is to keep an eye on that bottom left voltage, okay? Right now we're sitting at 4, and it'll probably sit at 4 for quite a while because I'm flying super slow, super chill, and nothing is going to really drop that battery voltage down super fast. That's not to say that it's not going to drop down, because it will. We're flying. And that means over time, as I'm flying, that is eventually going to drop down to 3.5 volts. And at that point, you're going to bring it in and land. So to show you that, I'm going to pretend like it's at 3.5 volts, and I'm going to bring the drone back in nice and slowly. I'm doing a coordinated turn here that's pulling my left and my right stick. You can see they're both moving, right? And I've just brought it down to a nice sort of stop. Bring it in over here, keeping it far enough away from myself that if I manage to blip it or something crazy, nothing happens. Bring it in here, lower down my throttle, and disarm.
Beautiful. How good. That is your first ever FPV drone flight. Holy crap, look what you just did, bro. Congratulations. Congratulate yourself. I'm gonna give you a clap. In this field with nobody else here, but it's me. Me congratulating the crap out of you, because look at you go. Good job.
And there you go. That's your complete roadmap for your first ever FPV flight. But honestly, this is kind of just the beginning for you. Flying becomes way more fun when you move beyond just hovering and start flying with real control, confidence, and flow. And that is exactly why I created the FPV Workshop 2.0. It shows you exactly how to build real flying skills. That way you can fly smoother, crash way less, and actually feel confident and in control every time you take off. Without it, you're still going to improve over time, yes, but it's going to be slower, more frustrating, and way harder to know if you're even on the right track. So if you want the shortcut that I wish I had when I first started, the link is down below. Or if you're not quite ready to delve into that just yet, the next best thing that you can do is watch this video here. Inside it, I'll show you the secret to smooth, confident flying and how to start locking it in from day one. So I'll see you over there very, very soon.